So the comets come from out beyond the solar system, out beyond the farthest visible planet. Jan Oort, European astronomer Jan Oort, was the first to actually suggest that there's something out there that's like a giant reservoir for these things. And what he did was he noticed that comets can actually dive into the solar system from all different directions. Now, the planets are all lined up along the ecliptic. The asteroids are along the ecliptic, though they do have orbits that are tilted with respect to the ecliptic, but they're normally within 20 degrees or so of the ecliptic. Comets can come in from every angle, from perpendicular to the ecliptic and so forth. Some of them came in with backwards orbits, retrograde orbits that are going the wrong way around the sun. And so he said this suggested to him there's a giant spherical halo surrounding the entire solar system very far out there, and something disrupts the orbits of these things, and they dive in. And so this became known as the Oort cloud. And so the Oort cloud surrounding the sun, and if anything disrupted any of these objects, they dive in close to the sun, go back out. These are these one-time comets. Or occasionally one would dive in, get caught into a short period, and go back every few decades. And so that would be the short period comets. Gerald Kuiper, on the other hand, American astronomer, NASA imaging team, in fact, was noticing that statistically, while comets come from all different directions, statistically, there were a higher percentage than would be expected that were near the ecliptic, within 20 or 30 degrees of the ecliptic, kind of like the asteroid belt. So he suggested maybe there's a big donut of comets surrounding the sun out past Pluto somewhere. That became known as the Kuiper Belt. In fact, we now realize that that was exactly what happened, that these things are out there, probably kicked out there when the outer planets migrated outwards. And in fact, Pluto is one of the larger members of the Kuiper Belt. So our modern understanding of the solar system here is that we have the planets orbiting in here, and then out somewhere beyond Pluto, Pluto being like the inner edge of this thing, are all these icy things going around here in a big donut around the inner solar system. And then out beyond that is this spherical halo of things. Okay, so the Kuiper Belt is like an icy asteroid belt, out here, these trans-Neptunian objects, and the Oort cloud is this mostly spherical sort of thing. And so, and there's millions or even billions of these icy things that are out there. Okay, the Oort cloud, somewhere in the tens of thousands of AUs away from us. So this is way out there, like a sizable fraction of a light year, like half a light year maybe out. These are these exceedingly long period comets. They dive in, they go back out, they come in once every billion years or so, or once every few 100 million years. So as far as we're concerned, they are single pass comets. They don't come back. Some of them are remnants of the proplyds. Some of them are probably remnants of the original globule or cloud of gas that collapsed to form the sun in the first place. When Jupiter and Saturn separated, these two monster worlds threw a bunch of things all over the place, and it probably tossed a bunch of icy things way out there also. And so some of the Oort cloud comets are probably things that formed before the sun formed, and some of them are probably things that formed as the sun was forming and got kicked out. Okay. The Kuiper Belt is a lot closer in. It's between 30 and 100 AU, and These are much shorter period comets. These are things that can repeat in a few hundred years. So they'll dive in, go back out, come back in a few hundred years, come back out. You know, they're the ones that, because they're closer to the eclipse to begin with, they're much more likely to get caught by Jupiter or Saturn and pulled into shorter periods that come by every dozen years or so, or a few dozen years. They're your typical multi-pass comets. They've, you know, when you see one coming by, it may have come by again in the past at some point. Most likely, these were things that were kicked out of the out away from the near solar system when the smaller worlds of Uranus and Neptune migrated outwards, and they migrated through all the icy things, icy planetesimals and things that were out there, and kicked them even further out. Pluto, Eris, Makemake, Haumea, and so forth, those are all Kuiper Belt objects.